Hey guys, Keely Reasoning here, owner of Love Hope Adventure, where I blog about the marriage relationship, intimacy in marriage, and how you can go deeper with your spouse. And today I'm going to address a reader's question. So first I'm going to start by reading the question. It's kind of long, and I wanted to do this video because this came in through my anonymous questions. You can actually, I'll leave a link in this video on where you can submit your anonymous question. But to get the answer to that, you're going to need to be on my newsletter because I do not always produce videos as answers. But this was pretty complicated and long, so I wanted to do a video. So the reader says, my wife and I are in our late 50s. The kids are gone and we have the house to ourselves. Unfortunately, I feel she's lost her desire for me. When we have sex or foreplay, I sense she is only doing so to satisfy me or fulfill her vows. Many times I hug her and press my hard-on or semi-hard-on against her, hoping she'll feel it and get excited like I am, but she doesn't. Try to continue to tease me, even if I take her hand and move it there. She may brush against me or give a tug or two, but then she walks away. We tried to have conversations about it, and I try to express how much I enjoy pleasing her. I really do. But all I get from her is conversations like, yeah, she enjoys it too much, but nothing that leads to further discussion, how to improve our sex life, or any indication that she enjoys doing anything to me. It would be nice if she would initiate some action. In the past, when I tried to be spontaneous, especially out of the shower, she would say, I'm always in the mood and there's not enough time. Which I get because while the fun is only 15 minutes, she has to get freshened up again. But on Saturday morning, when there's nothing going on all day, I would tell her I'm going to take a shower and she's welcome to join me or drop hints, etc. I could stay upstairs for an hour or longer folding the laundry or piddling around waiting for her, but she never gets moving until I'm dressed and downstairs. Don't get me wrong, we still love each other very much and hold hands, hug and kiss and take care of each other, do things together, but our sex life and her interest in it is down to zero. So my question is, how can I get it going again? What can I do to spark the desire in her again? Is there a magic herb or a supplement that I can give her a jolt to get her libido going? So obviously this was a very long question, and there's parts of this I don't have all the answers to. There's questions that I would want to ask back to the reader. So I'm just going to do what I can to address what's here and give some ideas of what they can do to get this conversation going. So number one question I have is it a perception thing? So I'm not an empty nester just yet. My kids are teenagers, but I can imagine that any couple who has teenagers, they've just gotten through like doing all of this stuff for their kids. Kids are time consuming, and so naturally your sex is going to go down, right? You won't have as much free time for one another. And the real question I have to start with is her desire lower than it ever was before, or is there just unmet expectations happening at this moment? Do you have some expectation that there should be more sex because the house is empty and why not? And she never had that expectation. Maybe that was never on her mind. Maybe she wasn't thinking, I want these kids to leave so that I can have privacy in my home again to do sexual things. So is her desire actually down? Or are these things that maybe were masked while you had children? Just things that had to, take place because you had kids in the house, and inviting your spouse up to the shower while, your teenagers are in the other room or something maybe wasn't really conducive. Okay, so then the next thing I want to address is the type of foreplay that the husband is giving towards his wife. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know very many women who really love having their husband's hard-on pressed against them when they aren't already in the mood. A lot of times that doesn't really make them feel excited. I think that for foreplay to get your wife in the mood, you will have to help her get somewhere sexual. Now, for men, it might be completely different, right? If your wife was to come and grope all over you and rub all over you, very well would probably be excited. But for a wife, this is really just kind of an inconvenience. Like, oh, great. Now he's excited, but I'm not there, and he's like already there. He's already ready, and I'm not ready. I'm doing things. Like, I'm cleaning this kitchen, and I don't want to stop what I'm doing and focus on this. He did make a mention about, just the time involvement, okay? Maybe they're only spending time together for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. So, the actual time of sex, it's quick, it's fast, and now you've got all this preparation and cleanup that you have to do. So for a woman, and, maybe she wasn't really in the mood to begin with, and she's like, okay, well, he's interested, so I'm going to do this, but then I have to take into account that I'm going to have to get cleaned up after. So it does sound like the reader is alluding to the fact that there is some, like conversation on that end. Like maybe she's saying, you're just approaching me at the wrong time. So he says, fine, I'm going to approach you at the right time. Now, I don't really know how the conversation is going down, but I would really like to encourage anyone who is flirting with their spouse and giving an open invitation to sex to get very real clarity with their spouse. Are you coming to have sex with me? So many times we just want to beat around the bush and say, hey, baby, I'm open. You want some? Okay, that's great and that's fun and flirty, but a lot of people are going to see that as an option, like, oh, they're just being funny or flirty or whatever. And they're not being serious, but I'm sure they would be serious if I was serious, but they don't realize how serious. So if you are in that position where you're flirting with your spouse and you gave them an open invitation to come have sex with you, and you're kind of expecting them to show up and do it, you have to be clear. Hey, I just want to be clear here. I know I'm having fun with you. I know that I'm inviting you upstairs to come have a shower with me. Are you going to do it? Should I stay, prepared for you to come up? Be very clear. Have very clear words. Sexy, fun, flirty, all that kind of thing. It's great. But then there comes a point where you have to just get real with your spouse. Hey, are we doing this? Because if not, then you're going to feel let down. You're going to feel let down because you gave that invitation and the spouse may not have known how serious you were being. Or maybe they knew how serious you were being and they kind of brushed you off, kind of like as their way of, yeah. Maybe they were saying no to you at that moment. So really get clarity. Flirting is fun, but when it's time, be clear. Are we having sex? Can we have sex now? Let's ask the questions. Don't think that that's going to kill the passion. It's not. What will kill the passion is if you don't have clarity and you both walk away feeling very upset. As far as the wife not really wanting to have the conversations and being unclear about, whether or not she enjoys this or whatever, this is so, so important to a husband or wife, okay? It's important to know that your spouse wants to be there with you, whatever it is you're doing. Now, maybe the wife is in a point where she is having sex because this is her duty. There could be any number of things going on. Mid-50s, maybe she's going through menopause. Maybe her hormones are out of whack or crazy, or who knows. There could be any number of things happening here. But in this time, while you want your spouse to be sexually engaged with you and excited and ready to be with you, there may be periods of time in your life where they aren't. But if they are still engaging with you sexually, be thankful for that. Thank them for that time. Tell them, thanks for doing this with me. Thanks for being here with me. The best thing is to just express your thanks and your love and your joy every time you spend time with your spouse. If it seems like they're kind of doing it begrudgingly, if it seems like they're doing it out of obligation, just again, remind them how much you love being with them, how important this is to you. Don't cut down the sexual interactions. Unless they really are just putting you off, but if they are willing to be with you, work through it. There have been a lot of times in our marriage where I've wanted to do things like go for a walk or go to the movies or go to something, and maybe Austin didn't feel like doing it at that moment, but he did it with me because he loved me. And honestly, that is what really was important to me, is that even if he didn't feel like doing that thing with me, that meant something to me that he did. And the same goes for him. There have been plenty of times he's wanted to do things and I've been like, I don't really want to do that. but I show up and I do it with him. And so that is really important to realize. If your spouse is showing up and doing something with you, whether it's sex or something else that they don't really love, take that as my spouse loves me. Not my spouse doesn't love me because they're not enthusiastic about doing this thing I want to do that they don't want to do with me. Now, I know it is very different with sex because emotionally speaking, there is a lot of connection happening with the physical release between a husband and a wife. But my encouragement is just be positive. Really, tell her how much you loved it, how much you enjoyed it, how much you were thankful to be with her. Not just the physical side, but really help your wife understand the emotional side of this. And then I would ask your wife, what is it that we do together that makes you feel emotionally connected to me and loved by me? Find that out and then tell her, when we are together physically, that's how I feel. And I know sometimes you're just there and you're not feeling that, but I'm feeling it. And I want you to experience that. And I understand if right now that's not something you're experiencing, but I'd love if we got there. And it's good to go to your spouse and find out, what are we doing that makes you happy, that makes you feel connected and makes you feel loved, and then express to them that same emotion you feel. That's how I'm feeling during our time of sex. Now, as far as low libido goes, I've written about this quite a bit. There's a difference between whether or not you actually have a low libido, or if you have a responsive desire or a spontaneous desire. A person who has spontaneous desire is this husband, okay? The husband here has a spontaneous desire. He feels excited, but with nothing sexual going on. Just, I'm gonna go get a shower, the house is empty. Why not? This is a spontaneous desire, right? The wife definitely has a responsive desire. And she's gotta be, things have to happen. Foreplay has to happen. Things have to happen for her to get there. And maybe the foreplay isn't happening long enough for her to get really, really, really excited. Maybe she's not in the mood to do it at that point, and that's okay too. But my encouragement would be that you guys set up a sex date maybe once a month. Truly recommend that you're going out on dates, have a sex date, and have a date that is not going to end in sex as well. Have them at separate times so that your wife doesn't think, well, he only ever just wants to have sex, and so this sex date, this means it's going to be me all night just taking care of him or whatever. Really have the date planned out so that you can prolong the foreplay, spend time with her, and just really please her. And if she wants to cut that short a little bit, that's on her. Now, I do recommend that if you're going to have a sex date, we have games in our shop. They are PDF printables. There are a lot of them you can play. One of my favorites called It's Getting Hot in Here. It takes about an hour to play it. So if you're having a sex date night, this is kind of the perfect one because you move around the board and it does take about an hour to play. So you do need that extra time. I say that also prepare a date that she would like, or maybe she can plan the date or whatever. So you have two of them in the month, so you're kind of taking turns. And then I would just really get clear with her about whether or not she really thinks her libido is low. If she thinks that, if she believes that, then it's time for her to go see a doctor. If she hasn't been to a doctor yet about, whatever she may be going through at her age, that's her decision, that's her choice. You may think she has low libido, but maybe she doesn't think that. So get on the same page about that. Thanks so much for joining me today, and be sure to sign up for my newsletter. I'm going to put a link here in this video. And also, if you have an anonymous question, I'm going to drop that link here as well. Fill it out. Join that newsletter list. Hi, doggy. And then you'll be able to get the answers to your questions. Talk to you soon.